But speaking of checking things out, so Vader, you said that you were a communist sympathizer,
I am. I'm a communist
and
sympathizer now.
some people might need some context for that. So there was a little kerfluffle between China and Disney, and this was something we were talking about backstage before this live stream started. So why don't you fill people in on your communist sympathies here,
Oh,
and Dubdy Dubs can hop in and give his take on it.
so Bounding into Comics just released a story yesterday, and it was basically about how I'm doing this from memory, so if I get it screwed up, let me know. They put out an article about how China was basically Chinese state government paper or whatever put out some kind of article criticizing Disney uh, about the Little Mermaid and how they don't appreciate their social justice nonsense and how they casted the show and basically just called Disney out for being the social justice warrior bullshitters that they are. And uh, it was a pretty interesting article, and I just replied simply as they're not wrong. You know, it, and I immediately got a whole bunch of likes, but I also immediately got some comments that said, "Imagine being so hateful towards Disney that you'll side with communist China." And I'm just like, "Oh my god, here we go." It was just really a little eye-opening to me and kind of funny, but the if a Chinese communist says the sky is blue in China and 2 plus 2 is still 4 over there, and you agree with them, that doesn't mean that you're a communist sympathizer. That just means they're right about some things sometimes. So it was just really kind of funny. And I know that opens up a whole other topic about how China kowtows and caters to China for dollars and all this kind of stuff because they are over there, you know, persecuting the Uyghurs and doing all kinds of bad stuff that Disney doesn't seem to mind, right? They don't care about that stuff. But it was just interesting how it takes somebody like the Chinese Communist Party to chide Disney for their nonsense, and it was just amusing to me. And I got accused of being a communist sympathizer, which was kind of funny. So it's
Well,
just
but
like, okay.
before we get pros view on this, I just want to shout out our Saturday superstar and
Yeah.
big contributor
Holy
Scotty
Oh
moly.
Dub
yeah.
Scotty Dub, anytime you want to come to my
99.99.
channel, you're welcome now.
Scotty says, always makes my day to see some double Matt discussion between His Excellency Kadish and Lord Vader. And I'm particularly happy to see Pro, aka Dubdy Dub, here on the
Oh
panel
no.
today. Also, Bob Dorsey and Astro Nerd Boy. Let's keep taking the super chats up a notch. Oh, the gauntlet has been thrown
Oh my
down by
god.
Scotty Dub. Scotty, really appreciate your support. Just so everyone out there knows, it's because of people like Scotty Dub, Bob Dorsey, and the Astro Nerd Boy, our Saturday superstars, that we're able to do like a podcast studio like we have right now. And we're hoping to quit our jobs, go full time and on YouTube and live streaming, all that stuff, because of the support that people like our superstars have shown us. It helps out tremendously. In fact, I'm going to jump the gun on this a little bit. Alex, the salty nerd himself, has quit his job to go full time here because of the support that we've been getting. He's very nervous about it, but he's like, look, I'm going to go all in. I'm going to burn the ships and just give everything I can to the channel and the podcast and all that good stuff.
Yeah,
And
hopefully.
it's because of people like Scotty who've been so supportive and have given us such generous super chats.
Well, and then it needs to
Hopefully.
be said that once you can do that, the level of your content, the quality of your content can rise exponentially because you're
Mhm.
not out there chopping down trees as the manly men lumberjacks that we obviously are. So, yeah, absolutely. The supporters out there for all of our channels, they're the electricity that drives all of this.
Yep. It'll be nice here. I think fairly soon, like probably next month sometime. I think Alex will be trying to join us on a regular basis Saturday mornings, and
You've been
that'll be
very
good.
jealous about our
He has
Saturday
he
live
has stream
streams.
envy because the Tuesday thing is mostly him, and this is us, and he gets a little twisted sometimes when we get the cool people on here. So yeah, it's been kind of fun poking at him, but it'll be nice to have Alex on the show for sure.
Yeah, but dubs de dubs.
You got
So
you're gonna
you know,
you're branding him something he doesn't want to be branded there, man.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
just thinking of the jingle we're gonna have to do now.
Oh
Dub
my
dee
god.
dubs,
Dub
something
de
like that. I
dubs.
don't know.
Well, Scotty Dub just spent $100 to solidify that, so
That's
I have to
right.
keep going with it. So it's kind of funny people accusing Vader of sympathizing with Disney when Disney has been bending over backwards to the Chinese
Yep.
Communist Party since they entered into that region. And you're the Disney expert here, so I want to hear your take on what's going on between China and Disney with this.
Well, there's much to be said about this, and we can go in many different directions. But where I would simply start is to say that this morning I did a video on this topic, and I was reading like you guys when I saw this article. I was quite impressed with the topic, and so I reached out directly to Bound Any Comics and said, can the author of the article, John Trent, can he make it over the channel and let's record and let's get something out there? And so what an amazing blessing that is to be able to reach out directly to the author and have a conversation about it. So here's the takeaway that I have. Disney indeed has been doing anything and everything they can to placate and please the Chinese Communist Party. Now, I don't have any problem with the people of China. The Chinese people, I don't want to paint with a broad brush, and I have
Mhm.
met many people from China, as well as many people from Hong Kong and other places who are wonderful
Mhm.
individuals. That said, the government of China and I have fundamental differences in the way that I approach the entire world. And so we would agree on very little. For example, in my viewpoint, there is truth, and you should base your life on truth. It's not your truth, it's not my truth, it's the truth. And so the closer you can align yourself with whatever the truth might be, the more successful in life you will be, and that goes for individuals, communities, states, nations, etc. China views the state itself as being the source of all truth, the source of all power, and they, well, just so happen to be the state. Disney, though, with Robert Iger, made a huge mistake that they do not recognize still as being a mistake. At least they don't publicly, and that is that they put tens of billions of dollars in physical real estate investments, capital expenditure investments into theme parks in China. And now, if Disney does anything that China doesn't like, well, Disney runs the risk of the Chinese Communist Party coming in and saying, you know what, you don't own Shanghai Resort anymore, or the 47% that they thought. You could see a situation where China could invade another country, and then Disney would be beholden to not say a single thing about it.
Mhm.
Because should they do anything that irks the Chinese Communist Party, well, they can just take the resort and Mickey Mouse can be out there waving a burning flag of some place that's been taken over, right there on the castle steps. And we laugh about this, but it's a real possibility that China could inflict serious pain on the company. And so that's a liability that Disney has undertaken under the direction of Robert Iger. He believes that the Shanghai resort is on par with Walt acquiring the Walt Disney World Resort, which was a magnificent piece of businessman maneuvering. And so Iger holds himself on that same pedestal because he got Shanghai. But in truth, he's been Shanghaied because now the entire company is up a pole. There's nothing that they can do because China now can manipulate the company to a very high level. Now, we've seen this before with companies like the NBA, we've seen it with Nike, but Disney is in a particularly difficult spot because of the issue of the physical property, right? It's almost hard to imagine any other company endeavor that has the kind of risk involved in building a theme park inside a communist nation. So, for example, let's take Nike. Let's say that Nike does something that really irritates the communists there, and they decide they're not going to sell Nikes anymore. Well, that's terrible for Nike, and they'll find somewhere else. They'll go to Indonesia, they'll go to Thailand to build their
Well,
Nikes, and
I
they'll
mean,
still continue with the global market.
they would confiscate all their sweatshops in China.
Exactly.
So
So
yeah.
so really bad for Nike, very good for little children, but which says something. But for Disney, on the other hand, they would lose massive multi billion-dollar investments, which also have all of their licensed properties there, which can then be used to propagandize. So that's really bad. Now, in terms of what China is doing with Little Mermaid, you'll recall that China had locked out many Hollywood studios for a few years as China was attempting to build up their filmmaking industry so that it would be superior to our domestic filmmaking industry. They want to beat Hollywood, and so they had done that to manipulate the market. They have re-allowed now American companies to come back in, and they receive about 25% of the total revenue that's made in China off of these movies. But they've allowed American studios to go back in. The issue with this is that China is probably doing this only because the pandemic drastically reduced their ability to produce films. So they have low inventory of films, and they need their theaters to continue running. So they've let the American films come back in, and now they're saying to the Walt Disney Company, "We don't like this mermaid movie." And in my humble opinion, I don't think that China believes what they're saying. You see, I think that China is attempting to co-opt the messages that we've been saying about, hey, if you're going to make a movie that stars a black character, an African American character, a character of African descent, however you want to terminology this thing, if you're going to do that, then this ethnicity, this demographic deserves to have their own characters who have the same love and attention put into those characters as the others. It's the same thing with the women issue. If you look at, for example, in Marvel, what caused the Phase 4 failure? Well, it's not that they went for diversity. It's not that they went with women. No, it's worse. It's deeper. It's more philosophical. They decided that it was fine to give hand-me-down content. So you don't get an original character in the latest Thor film that's a female. No, you get Lady Thor. You don't get an original character. You get She-Hulk. You don't get an original character with any of these other things. They're just the female version of already established male characters. You don't get to have Storm. You don't get to have Rogue. These fantastic Marvel characters that are female, already established and wonderful. You don't get those because those would be difficult to do.
Hey guys, if you could do me a quick favor, if you like this episode and it tickles your fancy or any other episode that we've done in the past, share it on social media and tag us in that post so that we know you're talking about us, and we will immediately jump onto that app and we will respond to your tag, and we can talk about what you like about the episode and possibly talk about something that we might want to cover in the future. And we would love to bring you in our community. We have a wonderful Discord app as well. There's a bunch of people in there that just love chatting with us. And we'd love to hear from you. So if you like this podcast, tag us in that post and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Thank you guys so much. Back to the podcast.
Now, China is coming back with that same argument. But here's the issue, and here's why I think they're faking the whole thing and just trying to sow discord. The reason I think that is because China in this Global Times release, and by the way, that's state-run media. So that is literally the propagandizing system of the Chinese Communist Party to the rest of the world. They're saying that Disney is going to lose the magic glory of storytelling because people are going to focus in on the ethnicity of the actors and actresses rather than the fairy tale. The problem with that argument from China, not from anybody else, but from China, is that China locked out fairy tales for decades because they viewed them as corrupting to the entire Chinese culture. And so the Chinese people don't know what the Little Mermaid is. They don't know that she's black, white, or anything in between. This is the first time they've been exposed to so much of this. Why did the Lion King take off in China, the CGI version? Because they'd never seen the animated version. This blew their minds. And so China, I think, is a bad actor in this. I think they have realized that they can sow discord. The real thing I think is happening with China versus Disney is that China is sending a message to Disney: don't send us any more of these films that feature people of minority, dark skin color to our country again. And I think China literally brought this film into their country knowing that it would do exceedingly poorly to send a message to Disney, because China approves every single movie that takes place inside their box office. That's what it means when you're a communist country that controls everything. And so the one thing, this is what John Trent and I discussed this morning in the video. People need to understand that in China, if you're a Chinese citizen, you are tracked with a social credit score. It's
Right.
like your social, or it's like your credit score here in the United States in terms of your interactions, right? Did you pay your bills on time? Okay, your credit score goes up. But in China, it's every decision you make, and it's tracked socially, and everything is micromanaged. Well, here's what I think. If you're a Chinese citizen now and you've just seen that the Chinese Communist Party has spoken out against The Little Mermaid, are you going to go see that film? Heck no, because that's going to lower your social credit score potentially. And you're already neurotic because you don't want to do anything that would lower your family standing. And so I think this is China also saying to their own citizenry, don't support this film. And they're tanking it inside their market.
Yeah, and you know what's funny is, so Disney, I saw a tweet about this morning. So Disney's doing what they typically do when there's backlash against the movie in China, where they're accusing the Chinese of being racist, right? Because they don't want to see The Little Mermaid. And then the Chinese government basically went to Disney and said, cut that shit out. We're not going to put up with it.
Right.
And
We're
so
not going to be Florida for
and
you.
yeah, and so Disney's like, okay, you guys aren't racist. You know,
That's right.
so and like the backpedaling was like, like they jumped into warp speed immediately when it came to the backpedaling on that stuff, simply because China is just like, yeah, we're not America. We're not going to put up with this kind of nonsense. If you're going to be accusing our citizens of being
Well,
racist for not wanting to watch your crappy movie.
isn't it amazing that the Walt Disney Company seems to hold in higher regard the Chinese Communist Party than it does the red states of the United States? They will placate China in any way possible. They will demonize and condemn those who wish to hold on to traditional values and
Yeah, I
don't
mean,
want
if you
propaganda
really
and
want to
children's
talk,
content.
if you really want to talk about don't say gay, go to China. Try try
There
try
you go.
pulling that
Right.
stuff over in China. It's like you can't say gay in China.
And
It's it really is a dictatorship, right? It's an oppressive tyranny on a huge level. Like they're basically killing their own citizens,
oh yeah, well
left and
they're
right over
into
there.
organs, and we're not talking about the musical instrument. But
Hmm.
the other thing that's going on here that's really interesting with China is that they have identified a weak spot for Disney, because what Disney is attempting here with The Little Mermaid is that this film is bad. And I
Hmm.
don't mean it's bad in terms of the story. I don't mean it's bad in terms of the performances by the actors. I mean it's bad as in the director, the writers, the choreographers, the costume designers, the CGI artists. They should never be given a budget again. This is an extraordinarily poorly made movie. And Disney, in order to defend that film, which they have had to have known for a long time was going to be bad, there's no way this went through production without them realizing it. Disney apparently determined that the way to defend this exceedingly bad film and protect it at the box office was to create a binary system by which they say to the audience, you either like this film and go see this film and support this film and talk positively about it on the social medias, or you're a horrible person who only dislikes it because of the color of the skin of the actress. And
Hmm.
China has figured out that that argument doesn't work because of how bad the movie is and that
Right.
they can exploit that. And so, real quick, I've talked a little bit too much, but I do want to just if you have either of you seen this film yet?
No,
I mean, I
Okay.
not
saw
good.
the original. I saw the
I need
cartoon.
to I just need to explain when I say it's a bad film what I'm talking about. So only two examples, okay? Only two examples. Example number 1. In the beginning of the film, Scuttle, the seagull that no longer looks like a seagull, dives into the water and eats a giant fish, for food, which birds do. And Flounder, who now looks like a dead fish for some reason, Flounder is scared of Scuttle, but is chided by Ariel because Scuttle is our friend. Why are you so afraid? And you're like, well, he just saw his brother murdered in front of his eyes. But the film has no cognizance of that. Like that would go completely over the writers' heads.
Yeah.
The second example that I'll give you, and literally there are 100 of these. It's a shoddy film. It's bad. There's no care given. But the second thing is, as they're going in one of the opening scenes towards the Mer people castle under the water, right, where all the Mer royalty, I guess, live. They're swimming towards the water, which doesn't look like water for artistic reasons we won't discuss here. And as they're going towards the castle, there is a glowing light that resembles a sun behind the castle. And I saw this and I thought, wait a minute. Why is there a sun in the water? Like you guys didn't even spend the time to think about that. That there's no sunset in the ocean,
Hmm.
and yet there it is. And what that reveals is, there's also another funny one where King Trident points his trident at Ariel at the end of the movie, like he's going to kill her. And the only reason you know that he's not going to kill her is because you've seen the animated film and know that he's going to change her into a human. But the animated film does that so much better. Whereas in this one, if you've never seen the animated film, if you're a Chinese audience member seeing it for the first time, you think when he says, how bad I'm going to miss her, you think, well, he's going to off the daughter right here. That's how this ends. But anyway, what it shows is that they farm this out to so many different VFX studios. And these different studios don't know what the heck they're doing because they're not being well managed, because there's not a strong director at the top to say, no, 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 no. What are you doing? There's no sun behind this castle inside. It's in the water, people. And so that's
Hmm.
just the entire film is replete with that. And to defend against it, they have used ethnicity as a defense, as a shield against criticism.
Yeah, a friend of mine actually went and saw the movie, and he was like, all of Ariel's sisters are of different races, and even her mother is like a different race than her father, and neither of them are black. And it's just like,
It's a
like
cornucopia.
he was so confused. He was like, how does race work with mermaids?
Well, that's because when mermaids lay their eggs, multiple male mermen come along and they spray their stuff on the eggs, so you never know which one's going to get into what egg. Just like
Well,
salmon in the river. They got to go up and spawn and do this weird stuff. So it's all a
I
big.
wish they hadn't spawned this film, I'll tell you that. But The other thing, and this is an artistic choice they made on the film that's just awful. When they were trying to design how they were going to do this under the water, they came up with the idea that they would CGI their entire bodies and they would put their faces from the motion capture. They put their faces on these CGI mermaid bodies. And it just does not work because even during the film, the proportions of their bodies will shift depending on which VFX studio worked on this thing. So, for example, King Trident's biceps change shape and size from scene to scene. It is seriously off-putting. And Ariel, where the seashells would have been but are no more because seashells were not acceptable, those also change in size. And despite every attempt to not pay attention to that, it's really hard to not go, what the heck is going on? Like, are they Stretch Armstrong in this film underwater? I don't get it.
And D-Dubs, so when I was on your live stream the other day, you had a really interesting story about, there's all these articles about Little Mermaid makes $125 million, and over the Memorial Day weekend box office, and you're like, yeah, with inflation at over 30%, ticket prices have
Mhm.
almost doubled in price since the last time we had this happen. And so even though it's 125 million or whatever the hell it is, less tickets have been sold. They're just more
Yeah.
expensive tickets.
I've been saying for a while that, ticket sales should be the metric, not box office for a long time now.
Yeah, well, that
'Cause
that would give a more honest look into what's going on with the industry. So in the private chat, I've given you boxofficepro.com. I don't know if you want to pull it up. It's your show. You don't have to. But I'll simply say that this article, just a few days ago, they were expecting the film to make over $135 million. So when they come out now and say, "Oh, it's making a huge splash. It's doing so good. It's on track for 120," and then they don't say over the 4 day, by the way. But when they say it's on track for 120 million first weekend, they don't tell you that it's dropping down from where its original projections were. They don't tell you that it needs $800 million to make a profit. They don't tell you that on the 3 day it's likely to hit just at 100, which is below Ant-Man Quantumania. Which
Mhm.
but that's the actual correct framing of what's going on here. And then also, they don't explain to you that, like you said, inflation for movie ticket prices has outstripped the normal inflation that we see that's historic around the country. And so movie ticket prices from now back to 2019 are something like 25% higher now than they were going back to Aladdin. Well, what that means is that Aladdin, ringing in 106 million, or I'm sorry, 116 million on its 4 day Memorial Day weekend, had a much larger audience than this Little Mermaid.
Mhm.
And why that matters. So you might say, well, that doesn't matter because it's, the Little Mermaid's making more money. So, Pro, you're just trying to be obstinate. Well, no, it matters because what are we seeing right now that's destroying the Disney company? We're seeing the drop in subscriber numbers in Disney Plus for North America. That's what this whole thing is about, with the stock dropping down to
Yep.
5 year lows, right? They can't keep subs. Well, why can't they keep subs? They can't keep subs because the societal participation in their product has dropped. How do we know that? Well, we look at the box office and we say, per tickets sold, not per the dollar, you have less butts and seats. So if you have less butts and seats, that means you have less eyes that want to see it once it comes to their house. That's the simple thing that the trades don't want to cover. And that's
Mhm.
why on thatparkplace.com, on every single article, we put at the bottom of the thing a little disclaimer that says we accept no quid pro quo or financial benefit from Disney or any other subject we cover. We literally can't. And so
And
that's just the telling the truth of the matter.
I really wish Odin was here to geek out with you over box
Yeah,
office
you guys would have a
numbers.
good time.
Yeah.
It'll happen.
But
It'll happen in the future.
Hey guys, if you like this podcast, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel and comment below on your favorite video as well. That goes a long way with helping us boost our channel and get out there in front of more people. And it lets YouTube know that we're doing something right. And if you want to catch us live, we go live 2 times a week, once on Saturdays at 10 a.m. Pacific time and on Tuesdays at 1:30 p.m. Pacific time. So join us there in the chat. We will see you on the live stream. Stay salty.